What's good? It's Woog. Let's talk some Canelo Crawford. I mean, I can't believe this thing is actually going down. I just hope that they are both in good health and have no, fight compromising, or I should say performance compromising injuries heading into this fight. And I mean, we've all heard so much conversation around this fight. We've heard so many different opinions, expert opinions, fighters, trainers. And, I'm surprised at how many people whose opinions I deeply respect in the boxing game who are going with Terence Crawford. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more film study before I do an actual prediction here, but I'll give you my gut feelings and just some of the biggest thoughts that I'm considering going into this one. Look, I know that it's very cliche to talk about the size here, but I mean, it's unavoidable. And I'm surprised at how many people think that Terence Crawford is going to bridge that size gap. I mean, he's incredibly skilled, but that at 38, he's going to put on 15 or so pounds, be bigger than he's ever been, while he's older than he's ever been, and be able to maintain those attributes that he had at welterweight and below. How does that even look? And when have you seen that actually happen in the past? And again, he's 38 years old. And keep in mind, Terence Crawford himself, after he demolished Errol Spence, said that there were weight classes for a reason, as being a reason why he probably won't fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, I believe he's actually convinced that he could pull off this win. I don't see Terence Crawford going into a fight any other way. He's supremely confident, and his whole track record bears that. Like, he is one of the greats of the generation, period, right? And if he pulls this off, by the way, going up from, I know he had the one fight at 154, one fight against Madrimov, and we really don't know how good Madrimov is. He looked good against Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford, if he's able to go up to 168 and pull this off against Canelo Alvarez, that'll be one of the biggest accomplishments in boxing history. And I'm just asking, when have you seen a similar scenario to where the Terence Crawford in that case wins the fight? And I know Roy Jones Jr. was once a middleweight, 168, then 175, and he beat John Ruiz. Canelo's not John Ruiz. It's not like Terence Crawford is going up. Look, it would be one thing if he was fighting like John Ryder. Let's say John Ryder somehow got his hand on a belt, and then Terence Crawford goes up to challenge so he could become a 4-division champion. He's been undisputed in 2 divisions. And let's say John Ryder picked up like the IBF belt or the WBA belt, and Terence Crawford goes up and challenges John Ryder. Terence Crawford in that case beating John Ryder in itself would be a tremendous feat, because again, there are so many things that aren't really being considered when it comes to size. Like size, it just sounds like a word. Size, okay, big, small. The good big man beats the good little man. All these different mantras that we've heard over the years. But if Terence Crawford at 38 were to have gone up to 168 and beaten John Ryder, people would have been like, damn, that's impressive. Or, fill in the blank with a less than elite 168 guy. Like when Roy Jones went to heavyweight, he didn't beat Lennox Lewis, he beat John Ruiz. And Roy Jones, I believe, would not have beaten Lennox Lewis. And anytime I'm really analyzing Canelo versus Crawford, I'm reminded of the recent instances where we had a fighter going up one or more divisions to fight a very good fighter. Again, not a John Ryder, but a very good fighter in that division. We had Lomachenko versus Guillermo Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux went up multiple divisions and just had no business in the ring, really, with Lomachenko. We saw Mikey Garcia go up to challenge Errol Spence. Mikey Garcia didn't win a round in that fight. We saw Amir Khan go up to like 154 or something and fight Canelo. And yes, Amir Khan did pretty well in the earliest rounds, and he was boxing well. He's quicker than Canelo. And I think Amir Khan at his best is quicker than Terence Crawford, especially this 168-pound version of Crawford that we have yet to see operate. Canelo Alvarez ended up going to the body, getting Amir Khan's hands to start dropping, and then looked low, went high, put his lights out. Scary knockout. And we also had the then undefeated Kell Brook, who couldn't get any of the other top welterweights in the ring with him, go up 2 divisions and challenge Triple G of all people. And Kell Brook looked pretty good for the first couple of rounds, ended up breaking an orbital bone, and his career was really never the same. He got stopped like in the 5th round, and then he got stopped in his next fight, a good fight, really good fight against Errol Spence. And Kell Brook was never the same. I mean, you could say that he was never the same after that fight with Triple G. And I remember when they made that fight, I didn't like the idea of Kell Brook, a fighter that I liked, going up and fighting a beast like Triple G. So again, Terence Crawford is not only going up multiple divisions to take on a champion, but he's taking on a generational great, one of the, pretty much the greatest fighter, you could argue, of this generation. Just career-wise, accolade-wise, all that. I mean, Usyk is there too. Terence Crawford is there too. But Canelo Alvarez has been the golden boy of the era, the big money fighter. And I know people like to nitpick and criticize his fight-by-fight schedule. Look at Canelo's resume. Even if you weren't impressed with his early wins against, you know, a post-prime Kermit Cintron and post-prime Alfredo Angulo and post-prime Shane Mosley, you have to look at, you know, when he stormed the gates at 168 and gave Callum Smith his first loss, Billy Joe Saunders his first and only loss, Caleb Plant his first loss. You have to tip your cap to Canelo Alvarez. And he went in the ring twice with near prime Triple G, went 24 rounds, and neither guy got wobbled. Neither guy got dropped. You could say that you thought Triple G won in the first fight like I did, and I thought the second fight was a coin toss. But Canelo Alvarez never hit the canvas against Triple G. And that's another thing here. Just because Terence Crawford is putting on the weight to go up to 168, people are saying, oh yeah, he's filling out really nicely and he's looks like he's pretty strong. And Terence Crawford is a very strong fighter, period. And it was something to see him kind of walk down Canelo when they were kind of chest to chest. I did take note of that, and I didn't think that that was totally insignificant. It wasn't. But when it comes to the chins of these two guys, Terence Crawford, to me, doesn't have a great chin. He's got a good chin, and I mean, he's never been stopped. He's never been beaten, right? But he got hurt against Mean Machine. He got hurt against Gamboa. We've seen Terence Crawford get hurt. And who's the hardest puncher that he's fought? You could say, I mean, I guess it would probably be Errol Spence, unless you think one of these other guys that he fought at 147 hits harder than Spence, but I don't. Or maybe Madrimov, who Terence Crawford gave a lot of respect to with, you know, he was very patient against Madrimov, and he was respecting those feints. Like, let's be clear about that. But he hasn't fought anybody who hits nearly as hard as Canelo Alvarez. Let's just be real. And Canelo Alvarez, his chin, his neck has stood up to the power punches of Triple G, to Dmitry Bivol, to Sergey Kovalev, to Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga. Like, Canelo Alvarez has been in there with some animals. And when is the last time you saw Canelo rocked? It was against what? Cotto's brother. Back in the day, before he was really even on anybody's radar. That's how far back you have to go to see Canelo look like he's hurt and look like, oh shoot, is he about to go? We haven't seen that. And again, look at the guys that he's fought. I mean, James Kirkland, say what you want about him getting knocked out by Canelo and him being a head over skis type fighter. Look, prime James Kirkland, I would have loved to have seen in the ring at 154 against some of the who's who at 154 today. I would love to have seen like Virgil Ortiz versus James Kirkland, or, you know, fill in the blank with your top tier 154 fighter right now against James Kirkland. Like, James Kirkland, if nothing else, was a bit of a bulldozer, and Canelo stood up to that onslaught in the early rounds. So Canelo, to me, has a generationally great chin. So I don't think Terence Crawford is gonna stop Canelo. Can he hurt Canelo enough to get his respect? Maybe, probably, but if you look at the guys that Canelo has had trouble with over the years, it's movers, it's Erislandy Lara, it's Floyd Mayweather, who's a much greater defensive fighter than Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford's offense and the threat of his offense is largely his defense in a lot of cases. I don't look at Terence Crawford as being a great defensive fighter. He is a moment by moment, my decisions are better than your decisions, and my angles and my IQ is gonna put me in positions and allow me to throw the punches that I need to throw to hurt you before you could hurt me. That's kind of Terence Crawford's game. But Terence Crawford as a whole, to me, he's not as good a defensive fighter as Shakur Stevenson. Now, he looked masterful against Errol Spence, no denying that. But Terence Crawford does get hit. He got hit by Kell Brook. He got hit by Sean Porter. He kind of struggled with Sean Porter. I know he ended up stopping Sean Porter, but Porter, I mean, style-wise, gave Crawford a lot of problems. Now, Canelo doesn't throw as many punches as Sean Porter. He doesn't have that tenacity where he's just coming at you, and staying low, moving his head. And I know that a lot of people think that Canelo is slipping skill-wise and sharpness-wise and endurance-wise. A lot of people think that, Canelo is slipping. And no, I don't think Canelo's as good as he was in 2021 or 2020, 2021 when he beat Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders and Avni Yildirim, Caleb Plant. I don't think that that's the same Canelo that we're dealing with, but he is still in control when you see him in these recent fights. And I do think that there is something to Canelo slowing down a bit in the second half of fights, but I think that his defense is good enough in the first half of fights to where when the opponent is throwing their most dangerous stuff, Canelo is still sound defensively. He puts up a high guard when he needs to. He moves his head early in the fight, at least when he needs to. And he kind of operates like a patient stalker. So is Crawford going to be able to just move away from Canelo? Is he going to stand his ground against Canelo? Is he going to be able to out jab Canelo? Like, I don't know if Crawford is going to be able to out tit for tat Canelo even in the early rounds. Like, I think I was talking with my dad about this yesterday or the day before. The first 2 rounds should tell us a lot. Like, if Crawford gets like wobbled or it looks like he gets hurt and then either wants to move away or clinch or something like that, he might be in trouble, and that could be like an early telltale sign, right? Obviously. But I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo looks like the sharper puncher between the two, even though Crawford is the smaller. People think, look, when people say without a doubt that Crawford is more skilled than Canelo, I think that that really downplays Canelo's greatness. Like, I remember kind of hating on Canelo back in the day, quite frankly. Like, I often do that when somebody's kind of the new hot shot and you can see that they are in a situation where they're getting all of the strategically placed fights and opponents that they need to be able to build themselves into a star. I usually start rooting against that person just naturally. So when Canelo was like working up the ranks and just beating these like old time big names, I was kind of like, damn, I wish somebody could just kind of knock him off. You know what I mean? But over the years, there's no other way that I could put it than Canelo has earned my full respect. Look, I thought Triple G was going to stop Canelo when they fought. That's why I wanted Canelo to fight him so bad. I'm like, he's not going to go the distance against Triple G. Well, not only did Canelo look like the faster, sharper puncher between the two, his defense was great, and Triple G, especially by that second fight, had to become a jab-heavy Triple G. So even if you thought Triple G won the fights, it wasn't how you thought Triple G was going to win the fights. Like, he ended up being like all right, let's see if we could out jab and outwork and like put a pace on this guy rather than break him down and beat him up. Like, Triple G wasn't beating Canelo up like I thought he was. So Canelo endlessly has my respect, even though I thought he ducked the hell out of David Benavidez in recent years, which was extremely frustrating to see Canelo downplay how important a fight versus David Benavidez is. I think that Canelo was wrong for that. And I think that I don't think he wanted any part of David Benavidez. That's just my take. And not to even say that Canelo couldn't possibly beat David Benavidez. My theory, by the way, is that Canelo didn't trust his second half of the fight endurance against David Benavidez. And I think that he thought he might be running into some of the same issues that he did with Dimitri Bivol, where you've got the taller fighter that's putting the volume on you and that's able to stay away from your biggest punches. I think that Canelo thought that maybe as David Benavidez keeps his foot on the gas in the second half of the fight, that Canelo could lose a lot of those late rounds and lose to David Benavidez. But I think that Canelo's being sold way short here. Look, he might not be in his peak prime condition, but look, you see the way that Jermell Charlo fought him. And Jermell Charlo, it's kind of crazy because he was a Charlo brother that was like striving for greatness like throughout his career, became undisputed at 154. That's why when he took the place of his brother in fighting Canelo, a lot of people were saying, let's see what Jermell could do. Jermell made the calculation pretty early in that fight, like, I can't beat this guy. Let's just not get hurt. That's how I saw it. And it ended up being one of the most disappointing performances in recent memory. I don't see Crawford doing that same thing, which makes me think that Canelo actually has a shot at stopping Terence Crawford. Like, if Crawford makes the same calculation and decides to fight let's not get hurt type of a fight, then Crawford probably loses by decision. But if Crawford insists that he put the foot on the gas and that he lock horns with Canelo, I think Crawford's gonna get hurt. I do. It's just hard for me to picture Crawford beating Canelo, because you tell me, if you think Crawford's gonna beat Canelo, what does that look like? Like, how does Crawford respond to Canelo going to his body? How does Crawford respond to Canelo throwing that left hook, whether he throws it low or whether he throws it high, or Canelo catching Crawford with a straight right hand? Again, Crawford is not a defensive wizard, and Errol Spence, punch by punch, is not Canelo Alvarez. Errol Spence is a bit of a workhorse. Yes, he did have a good jab. Yes, he was a southpaw. Yes, he would mix it up and start walking the opponents down, applying pressure, get them closer to the ropes and start working them over. Canelo's not that. Canelo can box you in the middle of the ring. Not as well as he could in his prime, but again, I just have doubts on what Terence Crawford at 168, as he's putting the weight on at 38. I have doubts on what he can do and whether he can operate at his physical best performance-wise. There are just too many questions. And again, we know what Canelo's chin is about. Can Crawford take Canelo's punch? That's an open question here. So if a fight breaks out, what happens? I know Crawford's one of the best operators at when a fight breaks out. If boxing is rock, paper, scissors, Crawford is one of the best at choosing the right tool at the right moment. And I do think that he's probably going to start this off in a southpaw stance. I mean, maybe he starts it off for the first round as a orthodox, but usually when he's looking to start doing damage, he switches to southpaw. Now, is he going to try to stay orthodox and think that he could outbox Canelo as they're both orthodox? Or is he going to look to pick the lock with some nice shots from his southpaw stance? Because, I mean, just think about that lead right hand that he hit Kell Brook with that finished the fight. Kell Brook didn't even know that that was in play when he got hit by that kind of jab hook that didn't even look like a big punch until you saw Kell Brook reeling and just stumbling into the ropes. Crawford is a magician. He's just not a defensive magician. And I feel like some of that is required if you're gonna beat Canelo, unless you're just a bulldozer in the way that Triple G is, or you are a supremely talented light heavyweight like Dimitri Bivol is. But again, Canelo's chin is among the best in the game, in the generation. Crawford, to me, not so much. So yeah, there's just too many gaps to bridge here. And look, as the fight goes, I'm probably going to be pulling for Terence Crawford, because I like to see greatness happen. I like to see somebody do the nearly unthinkable. And I know that the odds aren't that crazy. Like, Canelo's a favorite, but he's a slight favorite, like a -170. So again, I'm surprised at how many experts think Crawford is going to win this. Like, I think Paulie Malignaggi thinks that. I think Max Kellerman thinks that, among others. I can't envision what that looks like. I can't see Crawford stopping Canelo, and I can't see Crawford just purely outboxing Canelo over the course of 12 rounds. Canelo's just too damn good. This isn't any old 168 guy. This isn't, Donnie Lalonde when Sugar Ray Leonard went up to, light heavyweight to fight him and to win a title. This is Canelo Alvarez that Terence Crawford is going up multiple divisions to fight. And throughout their career, like skill for skill, it took a while for me to increasingly become impressed by Terence Crawford. Like, I remember when he was fighting like Breedis Prescott and Ricky Burns when he won his first title, and different moments like that. I thought Terence Crawford was good, but I'll admit, I didn't see the greatness until he started just dominating at 140, and the way that he beat Victor Postal and then stopping Jeff Horn at his 147 debut, and then, the rest is history. I didn't see greatness until, he started showing it just fight over fight. But skill for skill, seeing both of their careers kind of play out, I've been more impressed in more cases with Canelo Alvarez, like in his performance against Daniel Jacobs when he was just showing that supreme head movement, which he doesn't have these days, especially in the second half of fights. I feel like Canelo's back starts to tire and he becomes more hittable in the second half of the fight. So maybe there's going to be some strategy there to Terence Crawford starting to take advantage when Canelo is going to be more hittable. My thing is, in the first half of the fight, what's going to happen is people say that Canelo's a slow starter for the first, couple of rounds. Terence Crawford isn't the fastest starter either. I thought that Kell Brook won, 2 of the first 3 rounds. I thought that Errol Spence might have even won the first round. Amir Khan looked pretty good in the first rounds against Terence Crawford. So what's going to happen in the first few rounds? And is Terence Crawford going to be, lucid enough and not hurt, not compromised, not fatigued enough to make whatever strategy he might have for the second half of the fight against Canelo matter? Because look, in the first half of the fight, Canelo's going to be very dangerous, and I'm sure that Terence Crawford is going to respect that. So I'm just curious to see how that part's going to play out. So yeah, I'm going to do a full prediction in a couple of days on this fight, but my gut instinct says Canelo Alvarez wins this, and maybe by stoppage. But yeah, I'm gonna give some more thought to this before I issue the full prediction. Let me know your thoughts as we approach fight week. Who do you see winning this one and how? And if you are picking Terence Crawford, let me know what that looks like, because I still can't reconcile that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.